So we are in the 4th floor of Mamac in Nice. It's a fantastic building actually.
Thank you.
You can see the city, the sea, the mountains, everything. And especially in this level where there's the permanent collection. Now we are in front of the artwork of Ben Vautier. And I was a bit surprised because I know that there in Paris there is, the Ben's magazine, but I didn't know that there is the museum of Ben here. What is the story of this artwork?
When Ben had his magazin, his bookshop and second-hand shop in the heart of Nice in the 60s, it was a hot spot for the meeting of artists and discoveries and exhibitions and whatever, but also people could buy LPs. And when the Centre Pompidou in Paris was inaugurated in 1977, one of the first shows was devoted to the Nice art scene, and the curator was Ben. Oh. And before the opening, the Centre Pompidou decided to have a major piece of Ben in its collection, and they bought the bookshop. So, meaning that literally the bookshop was completely dismantled and reinstalled for Pompidou. And of course it was missing to Nice, but the museum was not existing. It was inaugurated in 1990 in Nice, and I think that it was important for Ben and for the museum to have a kind of testimony here in our museum of kind of spaces, installations that Ben was able to create. And here it's not his bookshop, it's magazin. It's a kind of cambra. It's a Nice word to express the notion of a room of one's own. And he created this space. People can enter in, and you have a lot of stuff, works, sentences by Ben inside, but also all around, as you can see here. It's written in French. It's a series of poetic sentences, sometimes also very political, and always with a lot of humor and irony about the condition of being an artist, being famous or not famous, and many other things.
And actually it's quite unique what Ben's approaching this being, art star, if this exists at all, I don't know. But there was a big exhibition in Saint-Neuf where he invited a lot of artists instead of showing his artwork. Yeah,
it's very important because of course he's a prominent artist. He was super important in the 60s, 70s and connected to many international movements, Fluxus and many others, but he was always and is still really connected to the territory. And what is one of the singularities of Ben, it's his ability to be at the heart of a group. He loved to be a catalyst to have the emergence of thoughts, of debates between people, of confrontation of works, and he's someone super curious. And for him, art is being part of a group, and within this group to fight and to have different opinions, but at least to have positions and to do things together. He's very generous in his way of inviting people around him.
Actually, you have two other big names in the museum, in the permanent collection. Of course, Niki and Phalle and Yves Klein. These two artists are pretty much connected to the city. But how became your museum to show this collection of these two artists?
I think it's really connected to the history of the museum and to the history of the city. Because usually when you speak about a vivid art scene with many international people being together at the same period, you speak about big capitals. And it's very rare to have this situation in cities that are in provincial areas. And Nice is, at least in France, an exception. And it's true that there was in the late 50s, early 60s, an incredible movement with young people who were connected to the territory or who were born here, who started to invent new shapes, who were bored with the academism of the School of Paris, born with the academism of many other stuff that were fashionable at that time, and they started to invent new way of doing art, and they were sometimes born in Nice. Yves Klein was born in Nice, Armand was born in Nice. Niki de Saint-Phalle was not connected to the territory, but she came afterward and she was connected to this group of people, and all together they started to make things that were not existing in Paris or not at this scale, but that were connected to what was happening in New York or in other places in the world, and especially in Europe. And the museum was really born from this energy 30 years after, but with the wish to offer a testimony of this incredible connection between a very local story that became international and with a visibility on the international counterparts. So we have a big collection of Yves Klein because he was born here, he was very active in Nice, but also in Paris, in Miami, in New York, in many other places, but he was really connected to Nice. And when he invented his famous blue, ultramarine blue, the Klein blue, it was like a kind of tribute to the sky of Nice. And Niki de Saint-Phalle, she realized that she would have to become an artist when she came for the first time in 1953. She had a kind of big depression, and she went to an hospital for a long time, and there she started to make some collage, assemblage and small drawings, and she really realized that it was a destiny in one way to become an artist. So she was really attached to the territory, and in 2001, 1 year before she died, she decided to make a big donation to the museum, and we have now almost 200 works of Niki de Saint-Phalle.
Yeah, we can see it in the exhibition, of course. When I walked around today at the museum, there were many students there and younger people. And for me, it's a big question: how can attract the museum this young generation? Because normally they just looking at the phones, looking to some small videos, or reading the news. I don't know, but they maybe not really engaged with spending an hour in this chamber of Ben, for example. So how can you approach the younger generation to come to the museum?
It's a never-ending challenge.
Yeah.
We don't have TikTok
yet, maybe.
Yeah. Not sure. We are on Instagram, so it's one way to touch them, but it's more on a general approach. We try with the learning department to propose a project in which the younger generations can be involved. For example, we have different programs in which we work with choreographers, performers, artists, filmmakers to organize workshops. And these workshops are really focused on teenage and young adults, and this works quite well because it's another way to approach the museum through practice. But we have also launched other kind of projects, more long-term, that are sometimes a little experimental. For example, we've been working 2 times with a choreographer, a French one called François Stemmer. We organized with him some kind of auditions meant for any kind of young people from the city of Nice, teenage or young adult. They did not need to have a huge talent as a dancer or as a theater performance. They just needed to be themselves, with a personality, with something very special, very singular. And we selected with him 10 young people, and he worked for 10 days with 10 young people, making some connections between their personalities, their motivations, their commitments, and the museum. And all this ended in a kind of performance that they did all together, and it was an incredible project. And we did this 2 times, and it's a way also to involve. So these are just 2 examples, but to say that we are trying to make different approaches, but each time involving younger generations. not just saying come and visit or come and have fun or have a nice time. We're really trying to involve them in a process of creation, and in the end, they are the ones at the forefront. And this works quite well. We are also doing a lot of events, concerts, performances, and thanks to that, we really managed to renew the public and to attract younger generation. So I can imagine that there are many other answers. We're trying to answer through art.
Yeah, of course. Just just a general feeling that maybe art nowadays is not that important, or maybe there are some crises anywhere in the world, and or the important things are happening, and I just realizing that for a lot of people art is not became the most important thing, but when you're saying that you are coming and discussing with them, it's maybe a good way to involve them.
I think that the new generation and even most of the people today, what they want is to live an experience. They want to be part of something. They don't want to just be in contemplation. So it's good to be in a museum and to see artworks and to spend a good time, but for some people it's not enough. So we are really trying to find ways to interact. And also, as you were mentioning, today we have big issues, economical crisis, the wars throughout the world and at the gates of Europe. So there are many situations. Also the ecological crisis. So you can imagine that in the daily life of many people, culture is coming far after. Yes, if you don't have anything to put in your fridge, this will be your first priority. But I think that museums are still important, and culture and art are still important, and also maybe more important than ever. Artists can offer also counter narratives. They can offer other imaginations. And for example, on the ecological issues, it's something that we often have in the programs through contemporary artists in the museum. It's a huge issue that we are investigating regularly in the program. And for me it's important because it's not just to say, hello, we are in a state of emergency. It's just that all those artists, they have a specific connection to some geographies, to some ecosystems, and then they propose also things, maybe at a little scale, but at least they propose things. And I think this is very important to share with people because it's also a tool of awareness.
Actually, I was wondering that if I would be a museum director, what would be my first, exhibitions? But I don't know at all if you as a director has the chance to propose exhibitions at all, or you just organizing stuff. And do you have anything what you would like to do but haven't done before?
I have many dreams for the future, but I always try to do the utmost to make them happen. So I have no regrets. Each time I had the wish with the team to set up a show or to organize an event, we managed to find the way. It's true that as a director you have to do many things before to make an exhibition. To make sure that the toilets are clean for the visitors, to make sure that you have enough budget, that everything is okay with the staff, and there are many other missions, and unfortunately in one way the artistic part is small compared to all the rest, but for me there is not this part, the rest has no meaning. This is the oxygen and this is the aim, this is the final goal. To make things happen with artists and to make a kind of bridge between the public and the artists. So all this energy is meant to do that. So to give you a specific dream I would say that it is for the future, and we have one big challenge for the forthcoming years. It's the whole renovation of the museum. And this is the next big achievement. This is for a better future for the museum and for a better future also for the artists and for the public we welcome here.
There are many, let's say, tunnels where you didn't put anything, so you just walk through. and maybe you can do something with that space.
Yeah, we will try to invent some other ways of inhabiting the space. In fact, it's interesting because going back to the archives, I could read that the architects had in mind a kind of promenade. And it's true that you have one room and then a big corridor and a view on the landscape and then another room. And we will try to respect their original thinking, but also to adapt the museum to the needs of today.
In the second floor there is an exhibition about Italian art in the 60s, actually from 60 to 75, which is also the big area of the Italian movie. So you exhibit a lot of details of movies. But you're also mentioning in your webpage that this is a first major exhibition since a long time, like 1980 something. So how was the original idea came from to exhibit the Italian art in the last century?
You know, Nice is 30 minutes from Italy. We are closer from Genova than to Marseille. So it's another perspective, another geography. When I was appointed director in this museum, I already knew, of course, the Italian art scene, but from a very narrow perspective, I would say. And the more I came to Torino, Milano, the more I discovered artists that were, from my point of view, quite exceptional and never shown in France. And then I started a discussion with Valérie D'Acosta, who is the curator of the show and was invited to make this show. She's a specialist in France of Italian art scene. And we decided together to set up a show that would propose a new investigation on the art scene in Italy from the 60s to 75, showing artists that were never shown at this scale in France. I would say that more than half of the Italian artists who are in this list were never shown in France, sometimes rarely shown in Italy. Nevertheless, they are very important, and with major works, I think of Lucia Marcucci. For me, it was extraordinary. I had a very narrow perception, mainly related to Arte Povera. I love Arte Povera. Artists from Arte Povera are major, and it's always a blessing to see works from them. But it's only one single part of a broader art scene that was super interesting. The beginning of conceptual art, the beginning of performance, connection with international land art, the beginning of video art. So there was an incredible blooming of the art scene in Italy at this period, and our ambition was to show it in France, but also to show it to our international public. We have more than 60% of our public that is coming from Europe and from all over the world. And also to share it with Italian people, because a lot of Italian people do not know these artists. So it's also connected to my methodology of doing shows. I love research. I'm not interested in telling a mainstream history, because you can see it everywhere. I think that the role of a museum is to investigate, to make research, and to show artists that are very important, but maybe for many different reasons. Social, there were women at that time. Economic, they were out of the market. Those artists were off the radars, but they are still important. So I think it's super exciting as a museum to be in the position of sharing this with the public.
Thank you very much.